I still remember the click. The trade was green, then flat, then red. $300 down, $700 down, $1,200, $2,800. It felt like I was sinking, but I didn't exit. I couldn't because the next candle had to reverse, right? That was the lie my brain whispered over and over as I watched my account melt like ice on asphalt. I was sweating. My hand hovered over the mouse. I told myself, it's just a pullback, then just wait for the bounce. Then finally, this can't be real. When I finally clicked out, I was down $7,046. It didn't feel like a trading loss. It felt like my identity was ripped apart. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from the money, but from the question that wouldn't leave me. How did I know I was wrong, but still stay in? That moment shattered every assumption I had about trading. And what I discovered next? No strategy, no indicator, no backtest ever taught me this. Because what cost me $7,000, it wasn't the market, it was me. There's a moment in every trader's journey where they realize this isn't about the charts anymore. It's not about the strategy you bought. It's not about the mentor you follow. It's not even about the market. It's about what happens inside your head when the money's on the line. See, I didn't lose $7,000 because I didn't know how to trade. I lost it because I couldn't get out. Because the emotional circuitry of my brain hijacked my logic. And here's the terrifying part. That same hijack is happening to you every single day you trade, whether you're aware of it or not. This channel is not here to hype you up with wins or sell you another holy grail. At Disciplined Trades, we rewire your brain to trade better. Because psychology isn't just part of trading, it is trading. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 deep psychological rewires I had to make, the exact mindset shifts that finally stopped me from blowing accounts. These aren't mindset cliches. They're backed by neuroscience, behavioral finance, and brutal personal experience. And one of them, number 5, literally rewired the way I see every candle on the chart. It doubled my win rate, not because I changed my setup, but because I finally understood what was sabotaging me from within. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I always exit too early? Why can't I just follow my rules? Why does one red day spiral into revenge trades? Then this video is going to change how you trade forever. Before we dive in, drop in the comments, what's the one mistake you keep repeating even though you know better? We're about to unpack why that happens and how to fix it. Chapter 1. The illusion of control will bankrupt you. It was supposed to be a bounce. Everything lined up. Oversold RSI, bullish engulfing, volume spike, the perfect setup. So I went in heavy, too heavy. At first it held, then it stalled, then it slipped. And when it dropped, I froze. I started bargaining with myself. If I just hold a little longer, it'll recover. It always does. Maybe I'll average down. I've done it before. But deep down was the truth I couldn't admit. I didn't just want this trade to work. I needed it to work. Not because the setup was perfect, but because it made me feel like I was in control. And letting go, cutting the loss, admitting I was wrong, that felt like giving up power. But here's the reality. Control is a trader's drug. The brain is wired to crave it. Neuroscience shows that when we think we're influencing outcomes, even when those outcomes are random, dopamine floods the system. It feels good, it feels safe, but in trading, it's a lie. The illusion of control convinces you that if you just stare harder, wait longer, or will it strong enough, the market will bend. But the market doesn't bend. It doesn't care. It's not your enemy and it's not your friend. It's a mirror, and in that $7,000 loss, it was reflecting back not the chart, but my own sabotage. That's the trap. The illusion of control doesn't just comfort you, it destroys you. It keeps you stuck in trades long past your stop. It convinces you to size up on weak setups. It makes you believe that your willpower matters more than probabilities. And every time, it ends the same way. Bigger losses, deeper frustration, and a growing distrust of your own system. The way out is simple but brutal. You stop trying to control outcomes and you start controlling process. You stop asking, how do I make this trade win? And you start asking, did I execute my plan flawlessly? Because the truth is, one trade is noise, 10 trades is noise, 100 trades is the beginning of a signal. Professionals know their edge only plays out over time, so they detach from outcomes and anchor to execution. That's real control, that's real power, and the science backs it up. Psychologist Ellen Langer called it the illusion of control. Decades ago, the tendency to believe we can influence chance events, especially when we're emotionally invested. In trading, it's amplified by loss aversion, outcome bias, and emotional anchoring. The solution isn't hoping harder. It's building a rules-based system, treating each trade like a single toss of a coin in a casino. One trade means nothing. Only the series matters. So next time you feel that panic rising that need to force a win, to hold just a little longer pause, ask yourself, am I acting from control or from process? Detached from the outcome, attached to your edge. That's the difference between the pros who survive and the amateurs who blow up. And if this hit you as hard as it hit me when I finally saw it for what it was, hit like on this video because this one shift saved me from blowing up account number 5. Chapter 2. You don't have a trading problem. You have a nervous system problem. I once made $1,800 in 12 minutes. The setup hit perfectly. The move unfolded just like my plan. It should have been a textbook win. But you know what I did? I gave $1,400 of it back within the next 30 minutes. Why? Because I couldn't sit still. My heart was racing. My mind was spinning. I didn't feel safe. And that's when I realized something most traders never confront. It wasn't my strategy that broke down. It was my nervous system. When I was a kid, I watched my father panic after losing his job. Bills piled up. Stress hung in the air like smoke. Money became tied to tension, threat, and shame. So years later, when I saw green on my trading screen, my brain didn't say, nice win. It said, don't lose it. Don't screw this up. Don't let them take it away. In that state, I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't trading from the present. I was trading from an old wound. That's what most traders miss. Your nervous system is the real trading desk. When you flip into fight or flight, your logic shuts down and your emotions take the wheel. You stop thinking in probabilities and start reacting like a soldier in the battlefield. And your trading account? It becomes collateral damage. This is what psychologists call amygdala hijack, when emotional triggers override rational control. Revenge trades, oversizing, cutting winners too early, just one more trade. These aren't discipline problems. They're nervous system problems. Science backs this up. A Stanford study showed that under acute stress, people take worse risks and make more impulsive decisions. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman puts it simply, you don't make decisions from thoughts, you make them from state. Regulate your state, and you change your choices. Which means, if your body is stuck in survival mode, no trading plan in the world can save you. The shift starts with awareness. Instead of just watching the charts, watch your body. Tight chest, shallow breath, restless legs, tension in your neck. These are signals that you are not trading from clarity, you're trading from dysregulation. Don't ignore it. Name it. Pause. Take 3 deep breaths. Stand up. Shake it out. And then ask yourself, is this a state where I want to place capital from? If the answer is no, step away, even for 5 minutes. Because almost every destructive decision you've ever made started with the body screaming at you in ways you didn't notice. And that's the real takeaway. You can't out-discipline a dysregulated nervous system. You can't out-strategize old trauma. You can't expect high-performance execution from a body that feels under attack. Trading psychology isn't just about beliefs, it's about biology. Learn to regulate your state, and you'll finally make decisions your future self doesn't regret. So if this unlocks something you've never considered before, drop nervous system in the comments. Because sometimes the biggest edge isn't a new strategy, it's the body you bring to the screen. Chapter 3. FOMO isn't just fear, it's a loss of identity. You know the feeling. You're sitting out, watching the chart unfold without you. The setup looked messy, so you passed. But now it's running fast without you. And suddenly, there's this heat rising in your chest. You start whispering lies to yourself. I knew it was going to go. Why didn't I just trust myself? I can still catch the next leg. So you jump in late, with no plan, no edge, just emotion. And boom, you get stopped out. Not because the trade was bad, but because you weren't even there for the trade. You were trying to reclaim a part of yourself you felt slipping away. That's the deeper truth about FOMO. It's not really about missing a move. It's about identity erosion. It's that unconscious voice that says, if I miss this, I'm not a real trader. If they catch this and I don't, I'm falling behind. If I keep missing plays, maybe I'll never make it. FOMO isn't about the candle. It's about who you believe you are in the presence of uncertainty. And when your sense of self is tied to catching moves, every missed trade feels like a personal failure. That's why it's so hard to let go. Because it's not about the market. It's about proving something to yourself. I'll never forget the day I chased my worst FOMO trade. I had a gap up on watch, even marked the breakout level, but I froze on the entry. Then it ripped 18% in 30 minutes, and I just sat there, obsessively watching it, replaying it, gripping my mouse, waiting for a re-entry that never came. Eventually, I snapped. Screw it, I'm not missing this. I bought the top of a secondary breakout on no volume. 3 minutes later, I was hit with a minus 9% loss. That wasn't a trade. That was a desperate attempt to feel like I still mattered, that I wasn't irrelevant, that I was still in the game. And here's what psychology shows us. The sting of FOMO isn't just envy. Harvard researchers found that social exclusion lights up the same brain regions as physical pain, which means when you watch other traders win without you, your nervous system registers it like rejection. It's not just about money. It's about belonging. It's about worth. That's why it burns so deep. But the fix isn't more trading. It's detaching identity from outcome. You are not your entries. You are not your PL. You are the observer of your process. The next time you feel that heat in your chest, stop and ask, what part of me feels like it's dying right now? What story am I telling myself about missing this move? And then remind yourself, no single trade defines your career. No candle defines your competence. No run defines your worth. That's the rewire. Because FOMO isn't just a trading issue, it's a mirror, reflecting the part of you that feels unworthy unless you're constantly proving yourself. The market isn't judging you, you are. And the cure isn't chasing more trades. It's building an identity strong enough to withstand the silence between entries. So if this broke something open in you, drop I am not my trades in the comments. Because the day you believe that, really believe it, is the day FOMO loses its grip on you forever. Chapter 4. The more you need a trade to work, the less likely it will. It was my third red day in a row. My confidence was shot, my account was bleeding, and my brain was screaming, you need to win this one. So I forced it. The setup wasn't clean, volume was weak, but I went in anyway aggressively. I wasn't trading because the chart told me to. I was trading because I needed to feel competent again. I needed redemption. I needed to get it all back. But the more I clung to that outcome, the faster it slipped away. Another loss. And this time, it wasn't just financial. It was psychological. Because deep down, I knew the truth. The trade didn't fail. I did by needing it too much. That's the trap. The moment you need a trade, you stop seeing it clearly. You don't follow your rules. You don't measure risk. You don't wait for confirmation. You are no longer trading the chart. You are projecting hope onto it. And hope isn't strategy. Hope is a hallucination wrapped in desperation. I learned this the hard way. One morning, I wrote in my journal, don't force it. Only A+ setups. By 10:15 a.m., I was down 400 on 2 small stop outs. And something in me snapped. I told myself, I'm tired of losing. I'm making this back. Then I jumped into a mid-cap wedge breakout. Low volume, no catalyst. I ignored every red flag. Because I wasn't trading the chart, I was trading my emotional need for redemption. 10 minutes later, I was down another $900. That was the day I started writing one question before every entry. Would I take this trade if I didn't care about the outcome? And if the answer was no, I didn't belong in that trade. Here's the brutal reality. When you need a trade, your nervous system treats the market like a threat. Your brain shifts into survival mode. Logic, pattern recognition, long-term memory, they all go offline. All that's left is a desperate need for relief. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman puts it perfectly. When we feel desperate, we stop perceiving reality accurately. That's why the tighter you grip, the more distorted the chart looks. The shift comes when you learn to trade from neutrality. Not indifference. You still care, you still want it to work, but you don't need it to, because you understand that one trade is just a data point, not a referendum on your worth as a trader. You start asking different questions. Am I trading the chart or my need to feel better? Would I still take this setup if I had just come off a win? Am I at peace with this going against me? If the answer isn't yes, then you're not in the right state to trade. Because desperation has a smell, and the market can sense it even if you can't. Needing a trade leads to tunnel vision. It leads to forcing. It leads to disaster. But when you detach, when you let go of the outcome, you don't just trade cleaner. You rebuild the most important currency you have, trusting yourself. So the next time you hear yourself whisper, "I need this one to work," pause, step back, breathe. And remember, your edge isn't in the outcome. It's in the discipline to let probabilities play out without you trying to force them. If you've ever caught yourself saying those words, hit that like button. You're not alone, but you don't have to keep trading from need. Chapter 5. Every time you break your rules, you teach your brain not to trust you. It was supposed to be simple. No trades after 11. I made that rule because I know myself late in the session, volume dies, choppiness takes over, and I get sloppy. But that day, I broke it. Again. At 11:18 in the morning, I saw one ticker moving and told myself, just one scalp, risk is small, it's clean enough. 10 minutes later, I was stopped out for minus $320. And worse than the loss was the feeling. Because I didn't just break a rule, I broke my own self-respect. That's when I understood something most traders never realize. Trading isn't just about edge or setups. It's a trust game. And the variable no one talks about is your brain's belief in your own word. Every time you set a rule and break it, you're training your subconscious to distrust you. It's like being in a relationship with someone who keeps lying. Eventually, it doesn't matter what they say, you just don't believe them anymore. And the same thing happens inside you. If your inner voice keeps saying no chasing, stop after 2 losses, wait for confirmation, but you keep violating those rules, your subconscious stops listening. Once that happens, your decision-making collapses. I lived this for months. I was journaling, backtesting, building systems, doing all the things a disciplined trader should do. But nothing stuck, because every morning I tell myself, I'll stop if I'm down $200. Then I keep trading until I was down 300, 400, 500. Deep down, I knew the truth. I don't actually listen to myself. And that realization explained everything. You can't build consistency on a foundation of internal chaos. The science backs this up. When your actions contradict your stated values, you enter a state called cognitive dissonance. Your brain hates it, so it resolves the tension either by changing the behavior or by changing the belief. And most traders take the second option. Maybe my rules don't matter that much. Over time, the brain literally rewires around this, and breaking rules gets easier, discipline erodes, self-trust evaporates. Behavioral scientists call this behavioral integrity, the degree to which your actions match your values. High integrity builds confidence. Low integrity creates sabotage. That's why the fix isn't building more rules, it's rebuilding micro-integrity. Start small, pick one rule, just one. No revenge trades after 2 losses. Stop after 11A. M, wait for the confirmation candle, then track it ruthlessly. Every day, write down, did I follow this rule today? Yes or no? No gray area, no excuses. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is alignment. Every time you keep the promise, your brain rewards you. That's how you shift from someone who hopes to be disciplined into someone who is. Because at the end of the day, the market isn't your real opponent. The voice inside you is. If it says, we don't chase, and you chase, that voice gets weaker. But if it says, we stop after 2 reds, and you actually stop, that voice gets louder, stronger, unbreakable. That's the trader you're becoming. Not one who hopes for consistency, but one who builds it, promise by promise, rule by rule. If you've ever broken your own rules and felt sick about it, drop a no more lies in the comments, because the day you start keeping your word to yourself is the day your edge finally comes alive. Chapter 6. Your trading results are a mirror of your emotional regulation. Let me ask you something. What's the real difference between a trader who exits cleanly at their stop and one who doubles down, widens the stop, and spirals into a minus $2,000 hole? It's not knowledge. It's not experience. It's not even account size. It's emotional regulation. Your trading results aren't just numbers. They're reflections of your ability to manage your internal state. The screen isn't testing your strategy, it's testing your nervous system under pressure. I had to learn that the hard way. There was a day when everything felt off. I hadn't slept well. I'd had an argument that morning. My body was tense, my head was scattered, and I was already irritated. But I still sat down to trade. Because discipline, right? The first trade was a small loss. The second one stopped out again. By the third trade, I wasn't really trading anymore. I was just bleeding emotion into every click. I knew the setup was weak. I knew I was breaking my rules, but I didn't care. I just wanted to feel something different than what was already boiling inside me. So I forced it. And I lost. Not because the chart failed, but because I did. Because I didn't regulate myself first. That's what most traders never see. You think you're analyzing a chart, but sometimes you're just expressing an emotion through a trade. Psychologists call it emotional leakage. The chart becomes a canvas. Your anger, your fear, your frustration, those become the brush. And when you're in that state, decision making isn't strategic, it's reactive. Anxious, you'll see threat where there isn't any. Frustrated, you'll chase risk to feel better. Elated, you'll oversize, convinced you can't lose. The science proves it. One of the strongest predictors of emotional control is something called heart rate variability, HRV. Higher HRV equals better adaptability and better decisions. Low HRV, often caused by stress, poor sleep, overtrading literally shuts down parts of your brain responsible for rational judgment while amplifying the emotional centers, which means if you're sitting at your desk dysregulated, you are scientifically more likely to chase, hesitate, oversize, exit early, and break rules. Not because you're weak, but because your biology has been hijacked. That's why I built a simple checkpoint into my routine. Before I ever hit buy, I ask, what's my baseline right now? Calmness, clarity, confidence, emotional neutrality. I rate each from 1 to 10. If I'm below a 6 in any category, I don't trade. I reset first. And the reset doesn't take an hour. 60 seconds is enough. Close your eyes, inhale deeply for 4, hold for 4, exhale slowly for 6. Do it 3 times. Then ask yourself, what emotion is present right now? Just naming it cuts its power in half. That's not woo-woo. UCLA neuroscience studies have shown exactly that. Because here's the truth. Your edge doesn't live in your strategy. It lives in your state. A dysregulated trader with an A+ setup will lose. A regulated trader with a B+ setup will manage risk cleanly and walk away intact. You don't need to control the market. You need to control your internal temperature. Because the second your emotions run your session, you're not trading, you're reacting. Comment, I trade my state, if this hits you deeper than any indicator ever has. Chapter 7. You don't break your rules in the moment. You break them the night before. It took me years to realize this. That trade I forced at 10:43 a.m. I didn't actually break my rule in that moment. I broke it the night before when I didn't journal, when I skipped my review, when I failed to prep emotionally. I showed up unanchored, unclear, uncalibrated. And when the market tested me, I cracked. Because you don't break in the storm. You break in the stillness that came before it when you fail to prepare your mind. Most traders think breakdowns are spontaneous. That rule breaking happens in the moment. But neuroscience tells a different story. Your brain is predictive. It runs patterns. And if you don't set that pattern before the trading day begins, your subconscious will reach for comfort under pressure. That impulse at 10 a.m., it was seated at 10 p.m. the night before. I learned this the hard way. I'd had 3 green days in a row. I was confident, maybe too confident. That night, I skipped my routine. No journaling, no review, no visualization. I scrolled Twitter, let Netflix run until 1:30 in the morning. Told myself I deserved it. Next morning, I woke up foggy, sluggish, didn't prep my watch list, didn't check the calendar, didn't center myself. And by 10:17 a.m., I was already in a revenge trade that made zero sense. Down 650 by 1040, confused, frustrated, spiraling. But the truth was simple. I didn't lose that morning. I lost the night before. Psychology explains why. Ego depletion means the more mentally drained you are, whether from lack of sleep, overstimulation, or skipped routines, the less willpower you have left to enforce discipline. And cognitive priming means the brain carries state continuity forward. Go to sleep scattered, wake up scattered. Fill your mind with chaos the night before, and your filter is primed for disarray the next morning. Poor pre-trading habits don't just happen in isolation. They guarantee predictable rule breaking. The science backs this. A Stanford study showed judges were far more likely to grant parole in the morning than in the afternoon because decision fatigue has set in. Your brain is a battery. The more drained it is before the open, the less capacity you'll have to manage volatility when it matters. Doom scrolling, multitasking, emotional drama, lack of sleep, all of it drains the same battery you need to trade with clarity. That's why pros don't just have a trading plan. They have a night before plan. Here's a simple ritual that changed everything for me. Review what went well, what triggered you, and what you do differently. Rewire by visualizing yourself following your rules under pressure. See yourself calmly exiting a loser or skipping a bad setup with confidence. Reset by cutting screens 30 to 60 minutes before bed. No stimulants late, no late night chart checks. Rest 7 to 9 hours, same time every night. Sleep is cognitive edge. This isn't about being rigid. It's about priming your subconscious operating system. Because your trading day doesn't start at the open, it starts the night before. If you want to stop breaking rules, don't just fight yourself in the heat of the moment. Pre-wire your brain for clarity, calm, and control before the bell ever rings. The market won't give you time to center yourself mid-trade. You either show up regulated or you show up reactive. Comment, "I'll win tomorrow tonight" if you're ready to prep like a pro. Chapter 8. Most traders aren't addicted to trading. They're addicted to the emotion behind it. I once told myself I was a dedicated trader. Charts every day, multiple setups, watching level 2 like my life depended on it. But the truth? I wasn't dedicated. I was addicted. Not to the process, to the feeling. That rush right before the click. The tension right after the entry. The release whether it was a win or a loss. It wasn't the market that hooked me. It was the emotional high I was chasing. There was a stretch where I broke every rule I had. Traded midday chop, forced setups, oversized, win backing after 3 red days. Why? Because I needed the hit. It didn't matter if I made or lost money. What mattered was stimulation, the illusion of control, the adrenaline, the validation. I wasn't trading to execute. I was trading to escape. And that's when I knew I was no different than a gambler. Psychology explains why. Justin Brewer, neuroscientist and addiction specialist, says we don't get addicted to actions, we get addicted to the emotional loop they trigger. And trading is a perfect loop. Anticipation spikes dopamine, execution floods stress and adrenaline. Outcome gives you validation or shame. Then the brain repeats the cycle, chasing the high or running from the low. The more you repeat it, the more those emotional spikes feel normal. You stop trading the market, you start trading the feeling. Neuroscience calls this the dopamine deficit curve. Every impulsive trade floods dopamine, but afterward, the baseline crashes, and the brain craves the spike again. That craving drives the next forced entry. Spike, crash, craving, compulsion. The cycle feeds itself until trading stops being intentional and starts being compulsive. The trap is this: most traders convince themselves it's discipline. That overwatching charts, redrawing levels, staring at every 1-minute candle is working hard. It's not. It's nervous system dysregulation disguised as focus, and it always ends the same way. Impulse trade, emotional roller coaster, repeat. The fix isn't more strategy, it's emotional boundaries, hard screen cutoffs, no late night chart scanning. Detachment equals clarity. Tracking every emotional trade, marking them, studying the patterns so you can see the loops for what they are, and replacing the rush with something healthier. Cold showers, workouts, breath work, training your brain to seek stimulation outside of the market. I'll never forget the day I took a full week off. No charts, no Discord, no Twitter, no backtesting, just books, walks, silence. The first 2 days felt like withdrawal, restless, irritated, almost panicked. But by day 4, I could breathe. By day 7, I didn't need the screen anymore. When I came back, my win rate improved, my patience skyrocketed. Because I wasn't trading for the hit, I was trading from clarity. Here's the truth: you're not a machine, you're not a robot. You're a human being with a nervous system, with trauma, with habits. If you keep using trading to regulate your emotions, it will own you. But if you detach, if you stop chasing stimulation and start respecting your process, trading becomes what it's supposed to be: a tool for freedom. Comment detach to win if you ever caught yourself trading for the rush instead of the edge. Chapter 9. You don't need more discipline, you need fewer decisions. I used to think discipline was my problem. Every morning I tell myself, be patient today, stick to your rules, don't force it. But by 10:38 in the morning, I'd already be deep in the setup I swore I wouldn't touch. It took me years to see the truth. I wasn't breaking my rules in the moment. I was breaking them the night before, when I skipped my review, when I drowned my brain in noise, when I showed up foggy and unanchored. By the time the chart tested me, the damage was already done. The market has always been my mirror. Every loss I forced, every setup I chased, every rule I violated, it wasn't about the taker. It was about me, my nervous system, my need to feel in control. I thought I was trading patterns. What I was really trading was emotion, fear, hope, desperation, FOMO. When I won, I couldn't sit still. When I lost, I couldn't walk away. I wasn't a dedicated trader. I was an addict chasing the rush of anticipation and the relief of release. But the market doesn't bend for your emotions. It doesn't care how badly you need a win. It won't rescue you from the illusion of control, or from the fantasy that doubling down will redeem you. It simply reflects what's inside you, the parts you've mastered and the parts you've neglected. And for years, what it reflected back to me was chaos. I learned the hard way that you don't blow up in one impulsive moment. You blow up in the 1,000 micro decisions you leave unguarded. Because discipline isn't infinite, it's a battery. Every choice, every impulse you resist, every chart you analyze, every hesitation you battle drains it. And once it's gone, you're no longer trading a plan. You're trading your fatigue. That's why I spiraled at 11 a.m., why I chased after missing moves, why I widened stops and prayed instead of executing. My brain wasn't broken, it was simply exhausted. The breakthrough came when I stopped trying to force more discipline and started removing decisions altogether. No more endless debates in the heat of the moment, no more maybe this time exceptions. I pre-decided everything. When I trade, what I'd trade, where I'd exit. I gave my future self no room to improvise. And suddenly, the noise quieted. My setups became cleaner, my execution sharper. Not because I became stronger, but because I built a system where strength wasn't required every second. That's when trading stopped being about chasing feelings and started being about mastery. Not mastery over the market, but mastery over myself. I realized my edge wasn't just pattern recognition. It was emotional regulation. It was nervous system awareness. It was self-trust. The market was never my opponent. My opponent was a version of me that needed control, that needed redemption, that needed to prove something. And when I finally killed that need, something shifted. I no longer cared about another trader's PL. I no longer felt like missing a move meant I was missing my worth. I no longer measured myself by one candle, one session, one trade. My benchmark became my process. My scoreboard became my consistency. My only competition became the trader I was yesterday. Because in the end, trading isn't about outsmarting the market. It's about surviving yourself. It's about showing up regulated, prepared, neutral. It's about building trust with the only voice that matters, your own. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your preparation. And when you stop trading to escape, to control, to prove, you start trading for the only thing that lasts: mastery. Chapter 10. The market doesn't punish you. It reflects you. I used to believe the market was out to get me. Every time I entered, it reversed. Every breakout I chased was fake. Every time I sized up, boom, red candle to the face. I'd sit there screaming, this market is rigged. They're hunting my stops. Why does this always happen to me? But over time, I noticed something strange. The same market I swore was punishing me was giving other traders clean wins, same tickers, same setups, same price action, different outcomes. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't the market punishing me. It was the unconscious parts of myself showing up in my trades. I'll never forget one in particular. I had this gap and go setup lined up. News was solid. Float was low. Pre-market volume looked strong. At the open, it dipped hard, and instead of waiting for confirmation, I jumped in blind, trying to catch the bounce. No clean level, weak tape, just fear of missing the move. 2 minutes later, I was down $480, punching my desk, yelling at the screen, why is this market so stupid? But later, when I reviewed the tape, I saw the truth. The market didn't punish me. My emotional impulsivity did. That was the first time I realized trading wasn't about fighting the market. It was about owning myself. Because here's the truth. What you blame, you can improve. If every loss is manipulation or algos or rigged, then you stay stuck. But when you own it, when you say, that loss was impatience, that exit was fear, that chase was FOMO, suddenly every trade becomes data. Not shame, not punishment, just feedback. I stopped treating the market like an enemy, and I started treating it like a mirror. When I sized up impulsively, it showed me my need to prove something. When I froze on a clean setup, it showed me my fear of being wrong. When I chased the top, it showed me my need to belong. The market reflected all of it. And once I stopped fighting that reflection, that's when I started to grow. Because the market isn't chaos. It isn't a predator. It isn't out to get you. It's a mirror. Every win, every loss, every impulse is all showing you the parts of yourself you haven't mastered yet. And when you stop blaming, you start building. When you start building, the noise turns into instruction. And one day, you realize the market was never against you. It was teaching you who you really are. Comment mirror mindset if you're ready to see every trade as a reflection, not a punishment. Chapter 11. Your brain doesn't want to trade well. It wants to avoid pain. Let's be brutally honest for a second. Your brain doesn't care about strategy. It doesn't care about edge. It doesn't even care about profits. What it really cares about is avoiding discomfort. The discomfort of loss. The discomfort of being wrong. The discomfort of sitting still while opportunity flies by. And once you understand this, you stop being surprised when you exit too early, hesitate on clean entries, chase garbage setups, or refuse to cut a loser. None of these are mistakes. They're survival mechanisms. I remember one trade that screamed perfection. Clean breakout, strong catalyst, massive volume. It was everything I said I wanted. I entered small just to test the waters, and immediately it ripped in my favor. My plan said add on confirmation, but I froze. Not because the setup wasn't clean, but because my brain whispered, what if you size up and then it fails? So I sat there and watched it run. I walked away with $180 on the trade that should have been $900. That's when it hit me. My brain didn't want me to win. It wanted me to stay safe. And that's the trap. Neuroscience shows the brain is wired for loss prevention. not gain seeking. It makes sense evolutionarily. Avoiding pain kept you alive. Taking risks could get you killed, which is why losses hit 2, sometimes 3 times harder than gains ever feel good. So in trading, your brain isn't looking for opportunity. It's scanning for threat constantly. And when it thinks it sees one, the amygdala hijacks your system. Logic shuts down, survival kicks in. That's why you revenge trade. That's why you exit early. That's why you freeze. It's not weakness, it's biology. But here's the thing, you can retrain it. The first step is awareness. When I feel that surge of panic, I literally name it out loud. This is fear. This is FOMO. This is urgency to fix the last mistake. Just labeling the emotion gives my rational brain a chance to come back online. Then I ground myself in data. What does the chart actually say? What would I do if I didn't care about being wrong? What does my system demand? And sometimes the most powerful rep is to do nothing. Watch a setup pass without chasing. Exit a trade cleanly even if it runs further. Let your nervous system learn. This isn't dangerous. I can survive it. I'll never forget the first time I consciously overruled my own wiring. I was about to size in early, heart racing, palms sweating, but I stopped. I said out loud, this is fear, not logic. I walked away for 90 seconds, came back, waited for confirmation, then executed perfectly. That trade made $630. But honestly, the money didn't matter. What mattered was that for the first time, I didn't just survive the hijack, I broke it. And that's the real game. Your brain isn't wired to trade well, it's wired to keep you safe. If you keep trading emotionally, don't blame your willpower. Blame your wiring and start rewiring it. Because success in trading has never been about always being right. It's about becoming the kind of person who can stay calm when everything in your body screams run. Comment, retrain the brain if this explains more losses than you ever wanted to admit. Chapter 12. If you don't know your emotional patterns, you don't know your edge. Every trader has a system. Some even have edge, but very few ever master themselves. They know their setups, they know their risk. Yet when it comes to understanding their own emotional behavior, they're blind. And that blindness, it costs more than any strategy flaw ever will. Because in the end, you don't trade your system, you trade your emotional patterns inside the system. I used to think I was a strategy trader. I had my rules, my setups, my watch lists, but when I went back and reviewed 3 months of trades, I noticed something insane. Every Monday, I overtraded. Every time I hit 3 green days in a row, I sized up recklessly. Every time I had a losing morning, I dived straight into midday chop chasing redemption. The setups didn't matter. The results were just reflections of the emotional patterns I hadn't even realized I was running. My real system wasn't on the chart. My real system was self-sabotage. That's how the brain works. It builds emotional conditioning loops. Lose money, feel frustration, and your reflex becomes trade to escape it. Win big, feel pride, and suddenly you are reckless. Miss a move, feel inadequate, and you chase the very next candle. These reactions don't feel like choices, they feel automatic. Because they are. Your nervous system wires them in over and over until they run on autopilot. You think you are trading consciously, but in reality, you're replaying the same emotional loop every week, every month, every blown account. Neuroscience proves it. The more often you repeat a behavior, the deeper the neural pathway gets. It's called long-term potentiation, which is why you keep doing things you already know are dumb. It's not a logic problem. It's a pattern repetition problem. And here's the real kicker. Harvard research shows most people are only 10 to 15% as self-aware as they think they are. Meaning your edge is buried under blind spots you don't even know exist. When I finally accepted this, I changed the way I tracked my trades. Not just entries, exits, or R multiples. I started journaling the emotional state before the trade. What I felt as price moved, what drove my exit, and what I did right after. Then every Sunday, I zoomed out and asked, what do I keep doing when I feel X? That's when it hit me. My biggest problem wasn't strategy. it was self-recognition. And once I mapped the patterns, I could start interrupting them. One of the nastiest patterns I uncovered was my Friday redemption trade. Every time I was red for the week by Thursday, I'd swing for the fences on Friday. Aggressive size, loose risk, vengeance mindset, and 9 times out of 10, I ended the week deeper in the hole. After logging this 3 weeks in a row, I set a rule. If I'm red by Thursday, I don't trade Friday. At first, it felt like quitting. But on the 3rd week, I watched the exact kind of setup I used to force fail instantly, and I saved myself $3,200 just by knowing my own loop. That wasn't strategy. That was emotional intelligence. And that's the real point. You're not just a trader. You're a system of emotional patterns pretending to be rational. If you don't map those patterns, you'll never truly own your process. Forget how you trade. Ask, who trades when I'm afraid? Who trades when I'm proud? Who trades when I'm tired of missing moves? Because until you know that trader, you don't know your edge. Comment track the trigger if you're ready to journal like a real assassin, not just a hopeful trader. Chapter 13. The market doesn't forgive, but it always tells the truth. Trading is the most brutally honest profession in the world. You can fake confidence. You can justify a setup. You can even lie to your own journal. But the market, it doesn't care. It doesn't bend. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't forgive your almost. It just reflects. And the truth it reflects through red candles, missed exits, and blown stops is the kind of truth most people spend their entire lives running from. I'll never forget one trade that exposed me completely. I tried to anticipate a breakout. No confirmation, no volume surge, just me, my intuition, and a fat ego. The second I clicked buy, the tape went heavy. Every sign said, get out. But I held because I wanted to be right. 5 minutes later, flush, minus $580 gone. It wasn't the loss that stung. It was the fact that the chart didn't betray me. It revealed me. It showed me I wasn't following my plan. I was trading from hope. I ignored everything I knew, and it forced me to face the truth. My biggest opponent wasn't the market, it was me. That's the thing. Every mistake you make overtrading, hesitating, chasing, cutting early, oversizing it, isn't random. It's a behavioral signal. The market is nothing more than a diagnostic machine, printing your habits in real time. Most traders take those mistakes like personal attacks, but they're not attacks, they're feedback. And if you can stomach that feedback without running from it, you'll grow faster than 99% of people who sit at a screen. The problem is the ego hates truth. It wants comfort, certainty, reassurance. So the second the trade goes against you, it steps in. That was just bad luck. Market makers were hunting my stops. Next time, I'll size more. It feels safe to believe that. But every time you protect your ego, you delay your growth. Because you're not fixing the leak, you're painting over the cracks. The traders who actually level up aren't the ones who avoid truth. They're the ones who hunt it. They know the faster they face reality, the faster they refine their edge. I had to train myself to stop hiding. After every trade, I forced a post-trade autopsy within 15 minutes. Not just what happened, but what I felt. Where did I deviate? What emotion was running the show? And I started rating my integrity, not my PL. Did I follow my plan? Did I respect my risk? Did I act from clarity or from fear? The answers were brutal, but they were real. One week I went all in on this. I promised myself I'd write down the real reason behind every single trade. No excuses, no fluff, no polishing the story. By Friday, I had pages that said things like, I took this because I was bored, didn't size because I was scared of giving back, held too long because I needed to feel like a winner. That week of raw honesty improved my edge more than any trading book ever has. Because it wasn't about the market anymore. It was about me finally telling the truth. That's the paradox of trading. The market is ruthless, but it isn't cruel. It doesn't punish, it reveals. It doesn't judge, it reflects. And if you're brave enough to look at what it shows you, instead of hiding behind excuses, you grow. Most traders spend years avoiding that mirror. But the ones who rise, they stare straight into it, no matter how ugly it feels. Because the market won't forgive, but it will tell you the truth. And if you're ready to hear it, that truth is the very thing that sets you free. Drop truth over comfort in the comments if you're ready to let the market be your mirror, not your enemy. Chapter 14. You don't fix overtrading by fighting it. You fix it by understanding what you're escaping. Let me guess. You've said it before, maybe even this morning. No more trades unless it's A+. I'm going to be patient today. This time, I'll wait for confirmation. And then, 5 minutes into the open, you're already in a mediocre setup. By 10:15, you've scalped 3 tickers. By midday, you're trading chop out of boredom. And when you stop to ask yourself why, the only answer you can muster is, I don't know. I just couldn't stop. But that's the truth most traders never want to face. You don't overtrade because of FOMO, or because you forgot your rules, or because you lack discipline. You overtrade because you're trying to escape something. Until you're willing to look at what that is, you'll keep clicking, keep chasing, keep bleeding your edge away one impulsive trade at a time. I learned this the hard way during one of the most exhausting weeks of my life. I was burned out, family stress, no sleep, confidence shot, and every day I swore I'd only take the cleanest setups. But the moment the bell rang, I was in everything. Scalps, breakouts, pullbacks, random bounce plays. I wasn't trading opportunity, I was trading to numb myself. Using the screen the way some people use drinks or drugs. Not for the money, not for the edge, just to quiet the noise in my head. That's the dark side of overtrading. It feels like productivity, but it's really just anesthesia. Instead of sitting with uncertainty or boredom or shame, you hit buttons. Because action distracts you from the stillness you're avoiding. Psychologists call it experiential avoidance. In trading, it's just self-sabotage dressed up as work. And the loop feeds itself. The urge builds. You click, your brain releases dopamine even before the outcome, and the hit rewards the behavior. You're not following logic, you're feeding a craving. The turning point for me came when I started asking a simple question. What emotion was I trying to change when I pressed that button? It sounds stupid, but writing it down broke the illusion. Suddenly, my trades weren't mistakes. They were mirrors. I felt insecure about missing the first move. I felt like I was invisible unless I was doing something. I felt like a failure if I wasn't making money right now. The second you see it clearly, you step out of the behavior and into the role of observer. And once you can observe it, you can break it. The first time I really broke it, I remember staring at the ticker midday. It had that don't miss this energy. I hovered over the buy button, felt the itch in my chest. But then it clicked. This wasn't a setup, it was a symptom. So I pushed back from the desk, walked out of the room, breathed through it. 10 minutes later, the ticker faked out hard. Total trap. I didn't just avoid a bad trade, I won against myself. That moment cracked the cycle. Because here's the truth. You don't fix overtrading with more rules. You don't fix it with another checklist. You fix it by asking what part of you you're trying to escape every time you press the button. Once you can see that, you have leverage. And once you have leverage, the market can't bait you anymore. Drop "I'm done escaping" in the comments if this one just hit where rules never could. Chapter 15. Every trade you force is just a negotiation with your own self-worth. You think it's just one bad trade, just one more click, just a quick scalp to make something happen. But if you zoom out, you'll see the truth. Every time you force a trade, you're not negotiating with the market, you're negotiating with your own sense of value. Because when your self-worth is tied to your results, you don't wait for clean setups. You chase trades just to prove you matter. I remember one Friday when the market was dead. No volume, no A+ setups, nothing worth touching. But there was this gnawing voice inside me. You can't end the week flat. You have to do something. You need to show up. So I clicked into a garbage trade, held it, averaged down. And by the close, I'd bled minus $1,100. Not because I lacked skill, not because the setup tricked me, but because I couldn't sit still with the feeling that doing nothing made me less than. I didn't trade the chart, I traded my insecurity. That's what most traders never realize. Overtrading doesn't come from boredom or from missing setups. It comes from worthiness attachment. When your value as a human being fuses with your performance, every trade feels like a referendum on who you are. You stop asking, is this a good setup? And start asking, will this trade make me feel like I'm enough? And once you're in that loop, no checklist can save you, because the problem isn't your system, it's your identity. The only way I broke free was by decoupling self-worth from outcome. I had to repeat it to myself every morning. My value is not determined by today's trades. My worth is fixed. My process is the work. And at the end of every session, instead of staring at PL, I forced myself to find one win that had nothing to do with money. I walked away instead of forcing it. I sized down when I felt greedy. I followed my plan even when I didn't want to. Slowly, that built something far more valuable than profit stability. I'll never forget the first day I let the market be boring and felt proud of it. Pre-market was flat. Nothing moved. No edge. For the first half hour, I fought the urge. I opened Discord, scrolled for ideas, flipped through charts hoping something would magically appear. But then it hit me. If I placed a trade today, it wouldn't be because there was opportunity. It would be because I needed to feel like I mattered. So I shut it all down, closed my platform, took a walk. I made $0 that day, but I gained something worth far more. I rebuilt self-trust, and that felt like reclaiming $10,000 from the hands of my own ego. That's the shift most traders never make. You don't trade to prove your worth. You trade because it's your craft, your puzzle, your edge. And you'll never taste real freedom if you're still trying to buy self-worth through every click. The market doesn't get to decide if you're valuable. You already are. Drop "I trade from worth, not need" if this was the final punch you didn't know you needed. Climax: the market can't heal you, but it will expose what needs healing. There's a moment in every trader's life when the monitor stops looking like a screen and starts looking like a mirror, where every candle reveals a fear, every click echoes a wound, every hesitation whispers a memory you never resolved. You think you're here to learn a setup, but the deeper truth? You came here because the market exposes what you've ignored in life, and it doesn't care about your comfort. It cares about one thing only. Who are you? Under pressure. I came to trading hoping to win, to escape the job, to prove I was smart enough, disciplined enough, worth enough. But the market didn't give me that. It gave me something more brutal and more valuable. It gave me a reflection of my impatience, of my craving to be seen, of my need to be right, of my fear of being wrong. It showed me how I responded to stress, what I did with uncertainty, how I behaved when I had no control. And every loss, every blown stop, every overtrade, wasn't the market punishing me. It was me showing up in the chart unhealed, unseen, unregulated. You don't have to be perfect to win this game, but you do have to be honest with yourself, with your patterns, with your pain, because the market will show you clearly, relentlessly, what still owns you. And you have two options: blame it or face it. Only one of those creates transformation. You want freedom? Here's the hard truth. The market won't heal you, but it will expose what needs to be healed. And if you have the courage to face that truth, not just once, but every damn day, then trading becomes more than a craft. It becomes a path to mastering your inner world. Every decision, a mirror. Every hesitation, a lesson. Every impulse, a signal, not about the market, but about you. So stop asking the market to make you feel whole. Start asking yourself, what is this moment revealing about me? What do I keep trying to trade my way out of? What part of me am I finally ready to meet? Because that is where the real profit is. If this hit deeper than you expected, comment, "The mirror always wins." You don't need a better strategy. You need a deeper mirror. Let's bring it home. If you made it this far, you already know this game isn't about candlesticks. It's about self-mastery. Every trade you take, every rule you break, every moment of hesitation or revenge or overconfidence, it's not a strategy issue. It's a psychology exposure system. The market isn't just asking, can you spot the setup? It's asking, Can you face yourself under pressure and still act with clarity? That's what separates consistent traders from the masses. Let's recap the real shift. You don't break your rules in the moment, you break them the night before. You're not addicted to trading, you're addicted to the emotion behind it. You don't need more discipline, you need fewer decisions. The market doesn't punish you, it reflects you. And every trade you force is just a negotiation with your own self-worth. If any of those hit deep, that's not by accident. That's your brain waking up. That's your future self pulling you forward. This channel isn't about hype. It's not about signals. It's not about shortcuts. It's about helping you do the inner work that actually makes trading sustainable. So if you felt seen today, if this cracked open something that no book or course ever touched, here's what to do. Like this video to tell the algorithm traders need this kind of content. Comment below. What pattern are you ready to face this week? Share this with someone who's struggling silently behind the screen. Subscribe if you want future deep dives into trading psychology that actually change your behavior, not just your knowledge. Because at the end of the day, you don't need more setups, you need more self-awareness. And that's what we build together here at Discipline Trades. See you in the next one.